Okay, we're going to be talking about finding x and y intercepts. All right, let's take a look at our first example here. I'm going to show you guys how you find x and y intercepts. For the first equation here, we have 2x minus 3y equals negative 12. Now, to find an x-intercept, if you want to find an x-intercept, the only thing you have to do to find an x-intercept is you have to set the y value equal to 0. And the reason for that is any line you draw, where that line crosses the x-axis, no matter what line you draw, when that crosses the x-axis, we want to find the x-intercept. So I put a question mark there, but I know the y value has to be 0. So anything that crosses the x-axis, you have to have a y value equal to 0. So therefore, if I set y equal to 0 here, we have 2x minus 3 times 0 is negative 12. 2x is negative 12, so x is negative 6. So this linear equation, which is in standard form, has a x-intercept of negative 6. Now, on the other hand, if you want to find your y-intercept, you have to set x equal to 0. And the reason for that is any line that crosses the y-axis has an x coordinate that is equal to 0. We want to find the y, right? So I have a question mark there. I don't know what it is, but I know the x value is 0. So now what I'm going to do here is everywhere I see an x, I'm going to change that to a 0. And we get minus 3y is negative 12. And divide across by negative 3. And we end up getting y is 4. So therefore, this linear equation has a y-intercept of 4. This, normally you say, okay, this has an x-intercept of negative 6. Putting that in point form, it'd be negative 6, 0. And this has a y-intercept of 4. Expressing that as a point, you would say the point is 0, 4. Okay, let's try another. So this is a linear equation in standard form. All right, well, if I want to find the x-intercept of this line, what do? Well, any line that crosses the x-axis has a y value that has to be equal to 0. So everywhere I see a y, I'm going to change that to a 0. So I get negative 4x is 8, in which case x is negative 2. Okay, likewise, let's take a look here. I want to find my y-intercept. So to find my y-intercept, anything that crosses the y-axis, you have to set your x value equal to 0. So now everywhere I see an x, I'm going to change that to a 0, in which case here we get y is 8. So this linear equation has a y-intercept of 8 and an x-intercept of negative 2. Again, if I express this in point form, the point will be negative 2, 0, and this point will be 0, 8. Okay, so let's take a look at graphing this here. To graph this using x and y intercepts, we're going to have to actually find the x and y intercepts. Let's go ahead and do that. So your x-intercept happens, you're going to have to set y equal to 0. So everywhere that I see a y, I'm going to change that to a 0, in which case we get an x-intercept of negative 1. So this has an x-intercept of minus 1. Okay, likewise, I need to find my y-intercept. So to find my y-intercept, I'm going to have to set x equal to 0. So now, everywhere I see an x, I'm going to change that to a 0, in which case we get a y-intercept also of minus 1. So now that you have your x and y intercepts, keep in mind you can express this as a point. In point form, this is negative 1, 0, and in point form, this would be 0, minus 1. So if I go to plot the point negative 1, 0, that would be right here. And if I were to plot the point 0, minus 1, that would be right here. So a quick sketch of this line would look something like this. This would be the line x plus y equals minus 1. Right? Simply by putting down your x-intercept and your y-intercept. Okay, let's take a look at the next question here. I want to go ahead and graph this here. So again, we have to find our x and y-intercepts. So my x-intercept here, I have to set y equal to 0. So everywhere I see a y, I'm going to replace that with a 0. I end up getting 2x is 14, in which case x is 7. So this has an x-intercept of 7. Okay, likewise, I have to find my y-intercept. So to find my y-intercept, I'm going to have to set x equal to 0. So everywhere I see an x, I change that to a 0. And in which case here we get 7y is 14. So y is 2. So I have a y-intercept of 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph these points here. So I have an x-intercept of 7, and again, if you express that as a point, that's the point 7, 0. And if I express this as a point, it's the point 0, 2. So the point 7, 0 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be right here. And the point 0, 2 is going to be right here. And again, if I connect these up with a line, you can see here, and we can extend this line this way as well. And see here, we have ourselves a straight line, and this would be a graph of 2x plus 7y is 14. Okay, so that's a brief demonstration as to how you find x and y intercepts. So again, just to recap here, to find an x-intercept, you'll notice every time we found an x-intercept, we set y equal to 0. Set y equal to 0, and we solve for x. Likewise, to find your y-intercepts, you're going to set x equal to 0, set x equal to 0, and you can solve for your y-intercepts. And the reason for that is any line that crosses the x-axis must have a y-coordinate equal to 0, and any line that crosses the y-axis must have an x-coordinate equal to 0. Once you have your intercepts here, like you see here, we just plotted them, drew our line, and we're done. Plotted our x-intercept, plotted our y-intercept, drew our line, and we're done. Okay, thank you.